My name is Ashley Cook, and I am a survivor of various forms of abuse, from sexual abuse to physical abuse, emotional, mental abuse, and even some spiritual abuse. I come from a background where I had parents who were addicted to drugs and struggled with alcohol addiction as well in my biological family, to the point where they could no longer care for me. And I was placed in foster care, and I went through various forms of abuse in foster care. And during my time in foster care, I struggled with building relationships with people because of the short amount of time that I would spend with each family. And so that became an issue in my adult life as life progressed. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. After being in foster care, I was eventually adopted into a family where the father was a pastor, the mother served alongside him in ministry, and they had two biological sons. And the toughest part about merging with this family or being adopted into this family is that I did not look like any of them. I did not sound like any of them. I didn't have the same background as any of them. They were a very chocolate and dark-skinned, beautiful family, and I am, as you can tell, very light bright. And so I struggled with trying to figure out my identity for years, and I could never find anyone that looked like me in my family. And so I struggled for many years. But one of the things that I was introduced to early in this adoption process was I was introduced to Christ. I would go to church every single, well, I ain't gonna say every single day, but for pastors' kids, you're in church often throughout the week. And so I was at church every time the doors were open, and I was introduced to Christ. And so at an early age, I developed a foundation in Christ. I wanted to learn more about him, wanted to learn more about who he was, what his expectations of me were. And I had a hard time with building and establishing that relationship with God, because the person that was teaching me about God was also sexually abusing me. And that person was my adoptive father, who was this prominent pastor and very strong and influential, prominent Christian leader. And everyone looked up to him. Everyone reverenced him. Everyone thought that he was just this amazing person. And don't get me wrong, there were some amazing things about him, but there was also some very dark things about him, things that I had to tussle with. I had to tussle with the fact that the man that was teaching me Christ was also bringing the greatest harm to my life. And so that began a journey for me in questioning, who I was, what God's expectations of me were. I began to ask the questions, well, God, where are you? If you love me, how could you allow these horrible things to happen to me? If you care about me, where are you? Why didn't you stop this? Why didn't you come in and save me? And there were 1,000 questions that I asked the Lord, but the one thing that I never did was stop believing that he cared, stop believing that he loved me, stop believing that he was there. But more importantly, I knew that there was nothing that had happened to me, nothing that I had experienced that he didn't know about, or that he didn't have a plan for. Now, I am not saying that the horrible things that we go through, whether that be being homeless for a season, if that is some sort of abuse that you've experienced, if you've been trafficked, whatever the horrible thing is that you've experienced, I'm not saying that God made it happen, but I am saying that he can use that experience to help other people. But before he can use that experience to help other people through you, he wants to heal you from it. And so I had to learn that, okay, I went through these horrible things, and I remember praying and asking the Lord to remove this pain from my life that I was experiencing, because some of the things that you will experience is you will try to figure out why these things happen to you. And one of the things that I did is I remember praying and asking the Lord to help me meet and find my biological mother. I had an obsession where I just wanted to see her. I just wanted to meet her, because I felt like if I met her, it would just solve all of my problems. It would answer so many questions that I had. And so I devoted years to trying to unpack and figure out why these things happen to me. And I beg God to let me meet my mom so that I could ask these questions and get these answers. And for years, I felt like God was blocking it and God would not allow me to find her. It was just like, okay, you're going to keep asking me, so I'm going to let it happen. And I did meet her. And what I realized is that getting the answer does not automatically solve the problem. We think it does, but sometimes when we get these answers, it kind of makes the problem worse, or it adds additional problems and it adds additional questions that then you begin to seek after. And so, what I have reconciled within myself is that I would stop chasing the why these things happen. I would begin asking the Lord how to steward these experiences. I would begin to pray and say, instead of saying, Lord, I don't want to deal with this pain anymore, I would ask the Lord to show me how I could use it. When I talk to people and I share my experience with people, they often come back or they often respond and say, you don't look like what you've been through. Or, I would have never thought that you had gone through this because you look a certain way or you've accomplished these things. And the reality is I decided a while ago that I was not going to allow what has happened to me to stop or to hinder me from reaching my goals. And I know that goals might be a very hard thing for some of us to imagine, because sometimes, when we were going through the pain, when we were going through the trauma, when we were going through the life interruption, our wildest dream was just to escape the pain, was just to escape the trauma. Like, if I can just get out of this, like that's my dream come true. And so when I say things like, reach towards your goals, or begin to think about visions and dreams, and begin to think about what you want to do with your life, sometimes that sounds foreign because you haven't had the opportunity to dream. You haven't had the opportunity to think past surviving the moment. And I want to take a moment right here to address the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment that sometimes comes with the things that we do when we are trying to survive a moment. I know that I can't say that all of us have, but I know that I have. There are things that I have done that I'm not proud of when I was trying to survive a moment. And I remember feeling like I was not qualified to recover. I was not qualified to receive a certain level of healing. I was not qualified to overcome certain things because of the things that I had done while I was just trying to survive, when I was just trying to get through. And so I just want to encourage you to release yourself from that shame and from that guilt and from that embarrassment. Like, you can move on from that, and you can give yourself some grace because you didn't know what to do. And one of the things that my adult daughter tells me now, as we talk about some of the trauma that I've experienced and how it has influenced the way that I chose to parent her, one of the things that she shares with me often is that, Mom, you did the best that you could with what you had. And sometimes we have to give ourselves that grace. We have to be able to forgive ourselves for the decisions that we made when we were trying to survive a moment. And so what my prayer for each and every one of you is that you would become acquainted with who you are outside of the trauma that you've experienced. Like, sometimes we latch on to an identity, which is actually a trauma that we experienced. That's not who we are. That is something that we have experienced, and it is something that can be used to help other people. It's something that can be used to inspire other people or pull them out of dark places, but it is not who we are. It is not who we are. I change. I'm very careful about the language and what I say about myself. So when I go somewhere, I try not to say I am an abused child, or I am this, or I am this. I try to stay away from labels, and I just try to separate the label and talk about the experience. No, I'm Ashley, and this is something that I experienced. But you know what? This is also something that the Lord has helped me to overcome, that my therapist has helped me to overcome. I am not what I experienced. and you aren't either. You are so much more than what you have experienced, and you have an opportunity through not only this scholarship program, but you have an opportunity. You have people that are supporting you. You have a community of people that want to see you succeed, and you have every right to. You've earned that. You have every right to be who you want to be. You have every right to do what you want to do. So I encourage you to begin dreaming, begin to write down some goals. They can be short-term goals. They can be goals such as, I want to laugh more this week. I want to smile more this week. I want to trust more. I want to build relationships. I want to get out of my comfort zone and try something new. It doesn't have to be humongous goals, like be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, even though you can do that, but you can start small, but begin to dream again. Just begin to dream if you've never done it. I am so grateful that the Lord has allowed me to overcome. And I'm so grateful that the Lord did not leave me where I was. And he wants to do the same for you, because there's so much that you have to offer the world. There is so much that others can benefit from, just from hearing your experience. Like, you can change the world. You can inspire others to be great. You can inspire others to be whole. There's so much that God can do with your pain. We have to learn how to steward it well. God trusts us with these experiences, and I believe that if we steward the pain well, we can help others. No, it doesn't feel good to be the example. No, it does not feel good to experience the things that we've experienced. But the reality is God can heal them, and God can use them, and we can go on and live an abundant life. We can go on and live a fulfilling life. The scripture says, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly, not just exist. We are supposed to enjoy this life, and there's so many beautiful things to enjoy. And so I encourage you to look at your experience as an opportunity to help inspire someone else. And if there are things that you have experienced that you still haven't gotten the help, you still haven't healed from, I invite you to seek out a therapist. There's nothing wrong with talking to someone. The benefit of a therapist is they can give you strategies and tools to be able to help you with your triggers. They can help you create a plan, an action plan of what you can do to get through your day to day. And sometimes you may need some additional support. You may need to take some anti-anxiety medication, and that's okay as well. But you need to get the help that you need so that you can continue to live a fruitful and abundant life.